Hey everyone, welcome back to another unboxing video. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at 4 really cool figures, that being the SH Monsterarts Monster X from Godzilla Final Wars, as well as the Fallen from Transformers vs. Fallen, and Studio Series Hot Rod and Crosshairs from Transformers The Last Night. These are some really cool figures. They of course have some cons that I'll be going over in the video, but for the most part, I think these are like, especially the Studio Series figures are some of the best that Hasbro has kind of made, especially as far as, you know, Michael Bay inspired designs. I think these figures did an amazing job trying to make it a transforming toy, but also keeping it as accurate as possible to the actual character designs. And I think that overall, again, they're solid figures. So let's go ahead and get right to it. And first up, we'll be taking a look at SH Monsterarts' Monster X figure, and right off the bat, it's a really solid figure. The sculpting and detail is really good, as always, from SH Monsterarts. The painting is, I think, one of their better figures, even though it's more simple. I haven't noticed any like QC issues. And I think the pearlescent white that's on the figure is actually really cool. I'm not very familiar with the design as far as the specific details, only because I'm most familiar with the character from the movie itself, and in the movie he was mostly covered in shadows and darkness, so it's really hard to get a good look at all the details. But from what I've seen from production designs and all that, it looks pretty accurate. I like how much detail they've managed to capture, and yeah, I mean, I think really overall, like I said, it's a really solid figure. My only real qualms is with some parts of the articulation. Now, don't get me wrong, the articulation is good, but I have issues with like the shoulder and the tails, and like the shoulder joints and the tail. I noticed that the shoulder joints, at least I don't know if it's just mine or if it's other people's too, but mine's has like a very limited range of articulation when I want to like move it upwards. Every time I want to move it up, it just seems like it's too stiff and it doesn't want to go. And I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be designed or what, but I just noticed that it has that issue. And the tail, I don't feel like there's enough articulation on the tail, and whatever is there, it's very loose. So every time I try to move it or get into pose, it just pops off immediately. But other than that, I still think the articulation is pretty solid. There's enough articulation all around, especially within the elbow joints. It has a really good double jointed elbow, and even like the waist, the chest, and the hip joints, they all have like really solid like just articulation going on. Especially the hips have a really cool sliding up and down motion, so you can really get the legs to kind of move around and stuff like that. It's really good articulation. I just feel like in those spots specifically, it feels like it's maybe hindered or could have been done better. But yeah, overall, like I said, it's just a really solid figure. The sculpting, the painting, the articulation, it's really good. I mean, it's an SH Monsterarts figure, so you're kind of getting what you're expecting. But yeah, and so I think that's about it. I'll go ahead and let you watch the rest of the articulation. And right after that will be some poses I put him in, and I hope you enjoy that, and then I'll come right back later. Taking a look at some size comparisons, here he is with both SH Monstars Gigan and the Final Wars that came out recently. And overall, I think he's a good size. It's really cool to have all 3 of these monsters together. And here we have the Studio Series Wave, all kind of in their respective backdrop boxes. And like I said, they all fit pretty well, although I do find Crosshairs interesting. I just feel like of all the scenes to pull, they choose the one where he just shoots down a couple drones for like 5 seconds. But regardless, they're all, like I said earlier in the video, they're all really good figures as far as accuracy and still being able to transform. But to kind of split them up, I'm going to start with Crosshairs. And just right off the bat from the front, he looks great. I mean, I think this looks very accurate to how he looked in the movie. Just even down as far as just all the kind of mechanical detail, the goggles, and even the way the sort of trench coat kind of drapes over like over the body and everything. Of course, they had to make a lot of sacrifices with the trench coat because, you know, I mean, that design was very stylized in the movie. There's no way they're able to kind of recreate that. But as far as, you know, just in toy form, it looks really good. Now, from the back view, it's a little bit of a different story. I mean, for one thing, if you look on the side of him, he's actually a very flat figure. And so that's kind of disappointing. But then again, I guess this character is kind of the definition of a shell former. He kind of has to be. But even so, I think his legs are just a little too flat and his body doesn't have a lot of dimension. But I do like that the back of the kibble basically can just pop off. I know some people would say that's cheating. It's, you know, parts forming. I don't really care. If they want to go for accuracy, I say go for it. But yeah, I don't know. I still think like detail and sculpting wise, this is a really good figure. Painting could always be better. I think that's one problem with Hasbro Transformer figures, that the painting could always be better. But as is, it still looks really good. I just really quickly want to touch on the articulation. That while I don't, I feel like with this one in particular, it works for what it is. But I do feel like, again, just the shoulder joints on mine, just like the Monsterarts, I don't know why it's like that, but they're just a little too stiff. And I feel like design-wise, it doesn't allow for a lot of range of motion. With that said, you can get him to good enough poses, I think, and it still works. There's plenty of hinge and swivel joints, the ball joints on the shoulder. The only other joint that I think is hindered is the head. I think that the ball joint on the head, it just doesn't allow him to look many positions. So and with him not having basically a waist joint, that's gonna be a hard part for some people who want to like pose him. But regardless, like I said, it works for what it is. But yeah, and so I'll let you get right to it, and then let's look at some poses right afterward. And for some size comparisons, here he is with Studio Series Drift and Stinger, Studio Series Cogman and the Last Night Drift, a custom painted one by me, and the Last Night Crosshairs. Next up, we have Studio Series Hot Rod. This is his Last Night appearance, and I just want to say that as a deluxe figure, this is probably one of the best Transformers we've had in a long time. Just because one of the issues with deluxe figures is kibble and articulation, and so far this guy doesn't have a problem with either. He has so much articulation on him, it reminds me of like a very old school Transformer deluxe figure, and the kibble is almost non-existent. Now of course he does have it, and it is on his back, but the way he blends in, especially the way they actually give him the door wings and have it kind of blend in with the kibble, it's really solid. The detail and sculpting is all really good. The painting is spot on to the movie. And funny enough, I'll point it out later, but his head sculpt is actually much different from the previous Studio Series we had before. But other than that, I mean, like I said, this is a solid deluxe class. Let's go ahead and get right to it. Now, much like Crosshairs, he has the ball joint on the shoulders, ball joint on the hips, and he has a lot of hinge and swivel joints. Oh, and he also has a ball joint on his head too. But unlike Crosshairs, the head can actually move up and down in a decent direction. And yeah, overall, it's just a really well-articulated figure. Oh yeah, and even the door wings have ball joints. So he actually has quite a lot of ball joints on him. And it just really gives him that free range of motion that allows him to pose in such just a large amount of poses. Also, the wrist can actually swivel, even though it is kind of kibbly. You know, it's just a big square. I mean, it can actually pose. It can actually swivel, which is is very different from how a lot of the deluxe have been going. So yeah, like I said, just posability. I mean, it's really good. I mean, you can just get into a lot of good poses. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's not much for me to say right here. I just think that it's really solid articulation. So yeah, we're gonna see some poses, and then we're gonna go right to some size comparison. Starting off here, we have Studio Series Stinger and Studio Series Bumblebee for the first. Here we have the Last Night Barricade and Steelbane. And lastly, we have the Studio Series World War II Hot Rod, which it's hard to tell from here, but there actually are some small differences with this head sculpt from the other head sculpt. And for our last figure, we're going to be taking a look at the Studio Series Fallen figure. And just like the Hot Rod, just like Crosshairs, the biggest compliment I can get to this is just accuracy. It is extremely accurate, but unlike the deluxes, it comes with basically no kibble. Just like Shockwave from many waves ago, because he never had a form that he transformed into in the movies, they were able to really focus on the robot mode, and I think that's really just allowed them to just make an extremely accurate, insanely posable, and just extremely well detailed figure. And I think that in the end, it just pays off for them. I mean, it feels like this one has a lot of really just thought and effort put into it. I really like that they put in, even though it's kind of gruesome for a kid's toy, I like that they actually put in the little aspect of the head coming off, or the face, I should say, that comes off. Like, he comes with the weird, like, just messed up face when he gets his helmet face ripped off. I think just that little detail is so cool. And just overall, really solid toy. The articulation is just 10 out of 10, amazing, as you've been seeing here. And yeah, I mean, I can't praise this figure enough. I think they did an outstanding job with the Fallen. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at some poses, and we'll be right back. For some size comparisons, here he is with SS Jetfire and SS Dark of the Moon Optimus Prime, Studio Series Sideways and Starscream from Revenge of the Fallen, and Studio Series Powered Up Optimus Prime with Revenge of the Fallen Megatron. And our video has come to a close. I appreciate y'all for watching. If y'all want to check out some photos of my art or my hobbies or anything like that, you can go to my Instagram page, Giovanni Arts Collectibles. That's where I post pictures of all that stuff. And again, I really appreciate y'all for watching the video. I hope you have a great day and stay tuned for the next one.